I have been dating my boyfriend for almost 2 years. We both lived in California, and last summer I left to spend a few months in Florida with my mom before starting my last year of grad school on the East Coast. Throughout our relationship, we had known that I was going to leave for about a year, and that it would be a long-distance relationship for about 7 months. I never planned to do long distance, but I truly felt he was the one, and I trusted him. He was a great guy, or so I thought. A week after I left, I received screenshots from this girl where my boyfriend basically sent her a message asking how she was. And she responds saying, "Don't you have a girlfriend?" He said, "Not even close." She said, "I don't believe you and don't want to be involved in anything sneaky." He said, "Nothing sneaky is going on." The girl reached out to me and sent me screenshots, so I asked him about it before disclosing that I had the screenshots. And he completely lied. At that moment, I said that I was done, but I took him back. It feels embarrassing to say, but he was such a great guy, and this was very out of character for him, or so I thought. And he said it was just a mistake, so I took him back. And we've been going to therapy these last few months, and have really worked past this. Anyway, I'm on my spring break from grad school, and I go to visit him back in San Diego. I surprisingly love my apartment on the East Coast and wanted to stay out here after grad school. But with his job, we decided it would be best for me to come back. We spent about a week looking for apartments, and the day before I was supposed to get on my flight and leave, we were about to sign a lease. For some reason, my brand new MacBook started acting weird, and I couldn't sign the lease that night. A few moments later, he hands me his phone to change the song, and I see this girl whose name I don't recognize text him. However, there were no other messages aside from her, "What are you up to?" Something felt off, so I checked his recently deleted and was sad to see he had deleted the whole thread. Long story short, he told this girl he was single as well. As this was happening, we were in therapy for this exact thing happening in June. It's just very shocking for me. I guess this really is his character, and I have to accept it. This girl didn't ask him if he was in a relationship, though he kind of just set the stage by saying, "I used to date this girl who blah blah blah." She believed him, and they started texting a lot. And he even volunteered to help her move into her new apartment. So obviously the guy's a jerk. He sucks, and he's not who I thought he was. And I broke up with him, and I got on my flight, and I left. I feel like I saw this before my flight for a reason, and I'm really thankful I did. The last week this happened a week ago, I have been in such shock. I can't think straight. I can't focus on my last month of grad school. I just can't even comprehend the situation. Initially, I wasn't going to talk to him again, but we've been talking in the last week. I just know I need to cut him off and move on, because this is disgusting, and I just want some advice on how to do that. I know the advice that I would give my friends, and I would like to think that I'm a sound person, but I never thought I would be in this situation, so please lay it to me straight. The other thing I will add, which drops a huge bombshell into this, is the last few months he's been asking to borrow money, which is weird, as he was financially stable with a 700 credit score. This man saves like no other. Anyway, he has never asked to borrow money before, and he said that he was just hitting hard times and running out of food and gas and all that. So, of course, I helped him. I was a little concerned, and he does have a history of addiction when he was in college, but he went to rehab, and he's totally clean and has been for 5 years. I remember asking him if he was doing drugs again, because it just didn't make sense to me that he was just running out of money. Of course, he said no. When I saw the recently deleted text messages, I also saw recently deleted text messages with his plug. And he has been doing drugs every single day for the last few months, and basically using my money to do it. I know this sounds crazy. It's embarrassing to come on Reddit and say it, but I just need to hear it from someone else, because I've been in my own bubble, and in my head has just been so foggy. I know I don't deserve this, and I want to move forward, and I just need some advice on how to. Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1. "Oh man, I'm so sorry this is happening. This sucks. I'm an addict in recovery, and there is nothing you could have done differently here. He's back out, and he's probably going to get worse and worse. You're well rid of him." My breakup suggestions: 1. Block your ex on all possible methods of communication. 2. Change all your financial, shopping, and social media passwords. 3. Ask a friend to be your breakup buddy, so you can text them whenever you have the urge to text your ex. Give a timeline of 2, 4 weeks, and then ask a different friend to be a buddy if you still need the extra support. Comment 2. How many red flags do you need before you wake up and have some self-respect? Stay with this man if you want him to take you financially while he cheats on you all around town. You keep refusing to accept that this is who he is. You keep crawling back to him. I don't even know why. Is it because if you cut him off, you'll have to accept that you were wrong about him, which you are refusing to do? Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more of this mess. So, after I found out about the drugs and the cheating, I thought that was it. But no, life had more in store for me. I was back on the East Coast, trying to focus on my finals, when I got a call from a mutual friend. Apparently, my ex had been in an accident. Nothing life-threatening, but he was in the hospital. My first instinct was to feel worried, but then I remembered everything he'd done. Still, I couldn't shake off the concern. I guess that's what happens when you care about someone for so long. I didn't go to see him, but I did call the hospital to check on his condition. They said he was stable and would be discharged soon. That should have been the end of it, but then I got a text from him. He was apologizing, saying the accident made him realize how much he'd messed up. He wanted to talk when he got out. I didn't reply. A few days later, I got another news. Turns out the accident happened while he was driving under the influence. The police found substances in his car, and now he was facing charges. Part of me felt vindicated, like he was finally facing the consequences of his actions. But there was also this heavy feeling in my chest, knowing that the person I once loved was spiraling out of control. I kept my distance, focusing on my studies, when I got a knock on my door. It was the girl he'd been texting, the one he helped move. She was in tears, saying she had no idea about me, and that she'd ended things with him when she found out. She'd seen my post on Reddit and figured out who I was. We talked for a while, and it was oddly comforting to know I wasn't alone in this mess. Then came the final straw. My ex's mom called me. She was begging me to help him, saying he needed support to get through this. She didn't know about the cheating, just the drugs and the accident. I felt for her, I really did. But I couldn't be the one to save him. I told her I hoped he got the help he needed, but I couldn't be part of his life anymore. It's been pretty up and down, to say the least. I've been angry, sad, and everything in between. But I've also been strong. I didn't cave in and go back to him. I didn't let his problems become mine again. I've been focusing on my own life, my own future, and you know what? I'm doing okay. I'm finishing up my grad school, and I've got plans for after that. Don't include him. Thanks for reading. It's been a wild couple of weeks, but I'm getting through it. My new boyfriend blames my CPTSD for our issues. So after he vandalizes my home and violates a restraining order, I ensure he faces the full force of the law and learns to never underestimate a woman scorned. I have not been in this relationship for very long, only about a month. I have been celibate and single for 2 years now, waiting for the right person, and everything has seemed good up until lately with my new boyfriend. I was very transparent with him that I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, as a result of a really terrifying upbringing and childhood intimacy abuse, CSA. But I have had years of therapy and have actually been doing really well mentally lately. The other night was the first time I went to my boyfriend's place, and I had told him many times I was nervous and hesitant. We didn't sleep together, but it was the first time we had done anything more than kiss. And I told him I would need some reassurance the next day that everything was okay. I am used to men only liking me because of how I look, and I am very wary. He was very nice to me until yesterday, after I went over and the next day expressed that I was feeling anxious because I had let my guard down. His replies started getting sketchy and weird, and he kept saying he was on his way home, then replying hours later still being out. A few hours passed and I started getting concerned and asked him if he was okay. He then replied and, out of nowhere, started complaining that my mini mental breakdowns were really boring and tiresome, and he didn't have time for such trivialities. I was honestly shocked because this was out of character for him. I told him I just wanted some reassurance because being physically intimate was a lot for me. And he went on to say that I needed to just get over my PTSD. and that I needed to check myself because my feelings were not his responsibility. I told him that I was incredibly upset by this and was crying, and he ignored that I was upset and went to bed. I was sending him messages saying this was making me feel awful and like I wanted to break up. And not only did he totally ignore everything I said, he just began sending me country music, lol. The way he was speaking had totally changed, made little sense, and I genuinely wonder if he had taken something. I am just shocked that someone can be so callous and insensitive, completely ignoring that I was upset to the point of considering leaving him. I am honestly at a loss for words at this point. I have never known someone to act like this. I thought he had been drunk or something until today, when he messaged me again, doubling down on what he said before. I asked him if he had been drunk last night, and he said no. He said he didn't want to discuss how I felt, and would rather do better things with my free time. I feel like my head has been in a washing machine and nothing makes sense. He blamed me for everything and said I was apparently creating a toxic relationship, and accused me of sabotaging things. I honestly have been feeling confused because he has made it seem like I have done something wrong, hasn't apologized for upsetting me, and doesn't seem to care at all about how I feel. I'm honestly in shock, really upset, and wondering if I have been unreasonable. Update. Thank you for the kind comments. I said to him, why would I want to be with you? What would I get out of it? Absolutely nothing. And told him we are done, and that I find him to be utterly foul, blocked on everything. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This is why you date people, as a trial before you become official with them, to see what red flags come up when you get to know them. He's showing his now, that he doesn't understand PTSD, doesn't believe in mental illness or trauma, and clearly is also just interested in you for your body. End things and block him. Comment 2. You are not unreasonable at all. He wants intimacy from you, and because you need a little extra care to get that, it's not worth it to him. This has nothing to do with your worth. He just showed you why he's almost 40, alone, and dating emotionally vulnerable women 10 years younger than him. Run, OP! Now for the update. Thank you for the support. Things went from bad to worse real quick. After I blocked him, I thought that was the end of it. But no, he started showing up at my work, acting like nothing happened. He brought flowers and tried to apologize in front of everyone. It was embarrassing. I had to tell my boss, who was cool about it, and had a word with him. He left, but it felt like a storm was brewing. I started getting anonymous texts, and I knew it was him. They were mean, saying things like, how I'll never find someone who can deal with me. I tried to ignore them, but it got harder. My friends said I should go to the police, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I thought he'd get tired and stop. I was wrong. One day, I came home and my cat was outside, which was strange because I always keep her inside. My heart sank. I rushed in and found my place trashed. Nothing was stolen, but my things were thrown around, and there was a note that said, "This is what you get." I felt sick. I called the police, but they said without proof they couldn't do much. I felt so helpless and scared. I stayed with a friend for a few days. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I was jumping at shadows. My friend suggested I get a restraining order. I was hesitant, but I couldn't live like this. I filed for one, and it was a whole process. I had to face him in court, which was the last thing I wanted. He acted all innocent, but the judge granted the restraining order. I thought that would be it, but he violated it within a week. He sent me a long email saying he was sorry and that he loved me. It was too much. I forwarded it to the police, and they finally took it seriously. They arrested him, and he got charged. It was a relief, but also so sad. I never wanted any of this. I've been trying to move on, but it's hard. I'm always looking over my shoulder. I got a new number and even moved to a different apartment. I'm trying to rebuild my life, but it's tough. I keep thinking about how I ignored the red flags because I wanted to be loved. I learned the hard way that sometimes it's better to be alone than with someone who makes you feel unsafe. Thank you for reading. My fiance prefers animated intimacy over me. So I surprise him with concert tickets and he chooses a gaming tournament instead. Then I find a necklace receipt and uncover his online affair. So I cancel the wedding and sell the ring to fund my solo dream vacation. My fiance, 30-year-old male, and I, 32-year-old female, have been together for over 2.5 years. And in the past year or so, he has lost interest in intimacy and just spending time with me without me begging him to. I've asked him a couple times why he seems to have lost interest in intimacy, and he said that we are both busy, so he just doesn't have the energy and hasn't been thinking about it, or he thinks I am too stressed. Not great, but it happens. If that was the truth, I'd stick with him through it. This weekend, I found out that he's been watching animated intimacy at least 2-3 times a week. That's what he admitted to when I walked in on him anyway. I don't snoop. Even if I wanted to, I don't think I'd find anything, because he's always been pretty paranoid about erasing his internet history, which seems a little less benign now. What I walked in on him reading was pretty normal homosexual scenes, so not really a weird topic to psychoanalyze or anything. I don't have a problem with porn or animated intimacy philosophically, and I would be fine with it normally, but just the fact that our real intimacy life is basically non-existent, and the fact that he was so secretive makes this feel a little like a betrayal. If things between us had been normal and he hadn't been lying about it, I wouldn't have an issue with it. For about the last year, it feels like he is not only disengaged with the physical side of the relationship, but has also lost interest in going on dates or doing things together. He just plays a lot of video games with his online friends and goes out to play Magic the Gathering all the time. Anytime I want to make plans, he gets upset and complains. I would think that a breakup is coming, but he also keeps complaining that we aren't getting married soon enough. He also does a lot of work around the house we both live in, but I own. We have been engaged for just under a year and a half. We keep picking dates and then pushing it off. It's mostly my fault, because I've been really busy with work, but he also doesn't seem to want to put any work into planning. He says he just wants to do a courthouse wedding. Really sweet, devoted couples do courthouse weddings. But the fact that he doesn't want to do anything to celebrate us getting married is just not sitting well with me, on top of his general disinterest. His whole attitude has made me hesitant. But now that I know he isn't even actually just dealing with a low intimacy drive, I have a lot of doubts. For people in long-term relationships, is it normal for a partner to seem to lose interest in intimacy and watch porn at least 2-3 times per week? Is our relationship going poorly, and we are in denial because we have been working too much and are comfortable? I just don't understand why he would act like this, and him saying that he didn't want to burden me just doesn't ring true. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Do not marry this man. Pushing to marry quickly in the courthouse with zero effort is a big red flag here. I am married for 20 years now, and I have more intimacy than you do. I have dates at least once a month, even if it's just a dinner and to see a movie. If we can't go out, we order takeout with a bottle of wine and watch a movie at home with no devices to distract us. Time to go your separate ways and find somebody who will put something into a relationship. 50-50, give and take. Comment 2. I don't think the problem is watching porn 2-3 times a week. That feels pretty average to me. It's literally everything else in your post. Lack of attraction, attention, devotion, and bonding. Getting married will just solidify his hold on you and make it so he has to put even less effort into the relationship. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. Well, things have escalated since then, and not in a good way. I thought I was dealing with a partner who had lost interest, but it turns out it's way more complicated than that. So, a couple of weeks ago, I decided to surprise my fiancé with tickets to a concert he'd been wanting to go to, thinking maybe we needed some quality time together. I was hoping it would rekindle something, anything. But when I told him about the surprise, he just shrugged and said he'd already made plans to go to a Magic the Gathering tournament that weekend. I was crushed, but I didn't let it show. I just said okay and went to the concert with a friend instead. The night of the concert, my friend and I ran into one of my fiance's buddies, who casually mentioned how my fiance couldn't make it because he was out of town at a family thing. That didn't make sense. I confronted him about it when he got home, and he got all defensive, saying his friend must have been confused. But I could tell he was lying. I didn't push it, though. I just let it go. Then, last week, I made another mistake. I was cleaning the house and found a receipt for a jewelry store. My heart skipped a beat, thinking maybe he was planning a surprise for me. But the date on the receipt was for a day he said he was working late. I couldn't help myself. I went to the store and asked about the purchase. The clerk remembered him and said he'd bought a pretty expensive necklace. I've never seen that necklace. I didn't want to believe it, but it was like the pieces of a puzzle were falling into place. I started noticing he was guarding his phone more, and there were these long gaps when I couldn't reach him. I didn't want to confront him without proof, so I kept quiet, but inside, I was boiling. Things came to a head this weekend. We were supposed to go to his sister's for dinner, but at the last minute, he bailed, saying he felt sick. I went alone, and that's when his sister accidentally let slip that she hadn't seen him in months. I felt like such a fool. I left early, making some excuse, and went home to find him not sick in bed, but laughing on a video call. He clicked off real quick when he saw me. I demanded to know who he was talking to, and after a lot of yelling, he admitted it was someone he met online. He said it was nothing serious, just someone to talk to, because he felt I was too busy for him. I was so angry I couldn't even cry. I just felt numb. But here's the thing. I didn't leave. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the house, or the time we've been together, or the fear of starting over. He apologized, said it wouldn't happen again, and I just accepted it. I know it sounds crazy, but I did. And now he's acting like everything's back to normal. He's being attentive, planning dates, and yes, even initiating intimacy again. It's like he's trying to make up for it all. But I can't shake the feeling that it's all just a show. I keep thinking about that necklace and who he really bought it for. I guess I'm just stuck. I don't want to be alone, and I keep hoping that this is just a rough patch we can get through. But deep down, I know I'm just avoiding the inevitable. It's like I'm waiting for some sign or something to push me to make a decision. Anyway, thanks for reading. It helps to get it all out, even if I'm not really doing anything about it. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.